an all new me, but an all new you. No, that doesn't make any sense at all. Hey, everybody, it's me. I'm here on my own YouTube channel and Twitch channel, but we're live on Twitch first. This is how it's going to work going forward. The time may kind of change. Don't you worry. We have always can adjust the time. I'm out here just living the life of a jobless fool on the West Coast. So 3 p.m. Pacific is kind of late in the day for me, but other time zones, it might be a little late. It might be just right. I want your interaction. I need your interaction. I love your interaction. And, I love hearing from you. We're going to be in chat. People like Kate Van D is here. We got old Hansa, who took time off from work, I'm assuming, to be here. My good friend Captain Lobot is here. I kicked my camera. Definitely not Trey. We got Mike Fig. We got a lot of people checking in here. LQ, good to have you all here. This is kind of a hybrid of a lot of different shows I've done over the last few years, quite frankly. Ken Goes Live began the other network, the GPA, and with that closing its doors real soon. We're gonna have some bonus shows coming up this week and next. We say goodbye next week, but Josh can be on air Thursday and Friday, Wednesday next week as well. From there, Ken Goes Live was more of a long form chat show, me channeling my inner Dick Cavett. But now we're going to take a little bit of that. We're going to combine it with some internet for old people, another show I did over on GPA. And then we're also going to combine it with things that I've actually been doing for 5-6 years. Remember the 3 Things podcast on the Napzok Files podcast feed? A version of that will live here today. We got questions, live StreamYard calls from a lot of people checking in here. My Patreon supporters get first access to the StreamYard links, but your questions coming in through all the way here. Yeah, and we got Scribbler checking in. Man, I love some of these names checking in here. Scribbler, Old Handsaw, Kristen McGee, Ranger Donald. Kristen McGee's needlepoint work is right back here. The Saturday Night Napzok needlepoint. That's right there. So here we are. And you can tell, too, you got a QR code there if you want to support the show outside of any kind of normal means of Twitch subscriptions, bits, and all those kind of things that you can do. It's not needed. It's there because it helps keep the lights on here in my home studio, but it's not needed. What's needed more than anything is just you hanging out with me, which is something we're going to do every Wednesday. 3 p.m. Pacific, maybe. I've been talking with my Svengali, John Mariano, about that start time, and we agree maybe we'll move it back an hour. JG resubbing here on Twitch as well. You know what, John? Good to see you and good to be live with you here. Daniel Medina checking in as well. I appreciate you guys watching on Twitch. There's going to be a rebroadcast up on YouTube. You might be watching that right now. So excited to get going into the show. Like I said, a lot of different things dumping in here, and we'll just also have some fun along the way too. That's kind of part of the fun of doing this, just being in my home studio and kind of teeing it high and letting it fly, as they say on the tennis courts. Let's get to our first segment today, The Things. All right, so I used to do the 3 things, which was the 3 things on my mind. And I was going to do 3 things on my mind. Then I thought, well, do I want to commit to 3 things? Because maybe I've got 2 and maybe got 5. So that's why it's just called The Things. As the thumbnail set up top, and occasionally the thumbnail will flash back in because that's kind of how it works on StreamYard every now and then. The Get Back documentary is in the news. It's in the pop culture zeitgeist, which means the Beatles are back in all of our hearts. Did they ever leave your heart? Not mine. I am one of those nutty Beatles fans, like the type that you kind of get annoyed with at parties. And I know it's like rooting for pizza. I get it. And there's been a lot of discourse. Oh, I love that term on Twitter. A lot of discourse coming out of this documentary airing on Disney Plus. Of course, Peter Jackson sifts through 60 hours of historic, legendary, almost urban myth level footage, along with double of the audio footage, and puts together this 8-hour plus documentary that's available on Bob Iger's Great Experiment. And there's been so much said already. The discourse about, the Beatles really aren't that great. I'm going to grab you by the neck and I'm going to throw you outside the room. I get all that. We can talk about context. We can talk about something that was groundbreaking in 1964 might not seem as groundbreaking to you because we've lived with it for 50 years or so now. I'm not here to focus on that. I'm here to focus on the film and how it affected me as a Beatle fan. And how did it affect you all out there, if you're a Beatle fan, or maybe you're not a Beatle fan. Maybe you just wanted to swing on through to see what the hype is all about. And maybe you're more of a Beatle fan now, or maybe it just wasn't for you as that. And by the way, a lot of people support me on the idea of rooting for pizza. LQ says nothing wrong with rooting for pizza. Channel 19's here and says, I am pro pizza. It's quite a stance, is it not? Pro pizza. I'm Ken Napzok. I'd like your vote in the next election. I'm pro pizza. But until people find out that I love pineapple on pizza, then they usually want to throw me out of the election cycle. So, anyways, get back, man. I was mesmerized by every second. There's not a second that was wasted for me. Is it kind of long? Would I suggest it to casual Beatle fans? I don't know. I'd literally watch all 60 hours of the uncut footage. But what we got was just absolutely mesmerizing, and I'm glad it's cut. Peter Jackson is clearly also one of those capital T Beatles fans like me and so many out there who we discovered it. So organically. I always tell the story. I was at a slumber party in 1987 for my friend Brandon's birthday. And my other pal, Sean, who was just getting to know really well, pulls out a cassette tape and goes, man, have you ever heard of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band? You got to catch this. It's this band called the Beatles, and it's great. Now, I'd heard the Beatles. They've been in my, subconscious, but I was 12. I didn't really know. And that started it. My dad didn't hand down some LPs. My uncle didn't come down from heaven with a book that said, "Oh, root for the Beatles." I just discovered him, and I was one of those fans. Would grow my hair based on different Beatles looks. Still kind of do. Christy McGee says my beard is okay. This is not really a Beatle era. The gray kind of takes it out, but it's a little McCartney in spring of 1970. A lot of people checking in. Phil's Babylon checking in there. Love that. And we're gonna get to some questions here too. So I went in to Get Back like so many other people, knowing these stories, just intimately acquainted with what the story of the Beatles was. I have a book by Mark Lewison, who's one of the great Beatle authors in terms of writing many biographies and many just informational books about the Beatles. Mark Lewison stuff is great. And used to appear on like the old Breakfast with the Beatles show back in the day that was syndicated, not the one that's still great with Chris Carter out of LA here. And he used to share little insights. That's how I learned all about the Paul is Dead stuff, a 2-part documentary radio show hosted by Mark Lewis and co-hosted by Mark Lewis and about the Paul is Dead, miss him stuff. So I knew the story, and a lot of people are talking about how this kind of reframes a lot of the historic moments in the Beatles' history, and how this makes you look at a bunch of things again, including the Beatles. Peter Jackson's going on a lot of talk shows, sharing some of the moments where he had to pull Paul and even Ringo aside and say, it's not as bad as you remember. Michael Lindsay Hogg's movie that came out in May of 1977, Let It Be, which came out of these sessions, Beatles weren't happy with it. Locked away in vaults. They didn't want anyone to see it. It was their Star Wars holiday special because Michael Lindsay Hogg, I don't blame him, saw what he had, saw he had this long form 60 hour. This is not Disney Plus era in 1970. You couldn't do a 3-part event. You couldn't do what the Beatles did in 95 with the Beatles Anthology. They made a 2-hour plus documentary and you highlighted the fighting. And that became the legend. Don't worry about facts, print the legends. Yoko broke up the Beatles. We know that's not been true for a long time. In fact, many of the Beatles have already said that. But depending on where you listen to them on the timeline, sometimes they'll be like, yeah, Yoko didn't break us up, but she was there. The story of the Beatles, it became its own legend to the Beatles. And to go back and revisit a lot of it, it was eye-opening in a lot of fun ways. But for me, it actually really affected me. To watch the Beatles, these gods. My friend Joseph Scrimshaw over at Force Center, he's just like, we view them as deities. They are gods, and it was great to see just them in the studios being blokes, and more than just the little details. Paul writing "Get Back," the argument with George, and all that kind of stuff. I was just mesmerized by the fact that what I was watching, what broke up the Beatles, was 4 close friends in their mid to approaching late 20s. By the way, one of my favorite parts of the doc is when the Beatles are kind of complaining about being 28. Made me feel real old. George Martin, the great producer, the legendary late George Martin, I've always viewed as this elder statesman, right? Was 43 at the time of that documentary. I'm 2 years past George Martin. I've got to get working. To watch that, what really broke them up was this. close friends growing apart and not knowing how to deal with it, growing apart creatively, growing apart professionally, but still knowing that deep down there's some kind of connection and some kind of love. They just don't know what to do with these complicated feelings. That's something that really hit me where I am in my own life and where I've been in my own life, creatively and professionally. The last couple of years has just absolutely changed a lot of us in a lot of ways. Good and bad. It's been challenging and trying. And it's not just COVID. It's not just this pandemic, the aftermath and the lockdowns and all that kind of it's everything around it and the political times and all the upheaval. It's affected us. It's caused us to change. And because of that, I've had some of my relationships fracture. I've had some of my relationships just change. And the tendency is to fight change. That's what we do, right? We just fight change. It's fear based. And then therefore we don't know how to discuss it. So I sat watching for 3 days the Beatles that I love, the Beatles whose music got me through. 20 years ago this year, George Harrison passed away. On that morning, I was walking into work. I had a job that started at 6 a.m. I walk in and my friend came out and said, "Hey, I think that Beatle you like died." And it was my Beatle, George. And I went up to the top of this parking structure at the mall where it worked at. And as the sun came up over the San Fernando Valley, it bawled my eyes out because George's music had quite frankly saved my life, along with like U2's music in my mid to early 20s. I was watching this band that's changed my life, just struggle with how to communicate what was happening. It blew my mind. It affected me. It helped me process some things going on in my own life. And it highlighted the fact that especially we as men, and I do mean specifically as men, have a real difficult time facing what's going on inside of us, processing it, and getting that out and to those that are affected by what's going on. We struggle with it. We struggle with it through the ages, and it's led to a lot of big problems in the world. And I was watching it manifest itself with the Beatles. I was watching Stephen Colbert, Beatle and Lord of the Rings super fan, talk to his buddy Peter Jackson in promotion of this documentary, and they were highlighting that 40-second kind of clip, that 40-second part of the doc where Paul McCartney, on the day after George had left, or one of the days George had left and quit the band, and John doesn't show up, and it's Ringo and it's Paul, and they're trying to figure it out. And Paul just kind of looks off as he says, "And then there were two," and tears well in his eyes. That's not a man who's angry about Yoko. That's not a man who wants to go write silly little love songs. That's a man who's like, "I love this guy. He's my friend. And I just, we're growing apart, and I'm breaking apart. We're growing apart because that's the way it should happen. That's the way it needs to happen. And I don't know how to tell him that. And he doesn't know how to tell me that. And that's going to bring all the walls crumbling down." Man, that absolutely moved me, affected me, scared me, shattered me in a way, and built me back up. It was supposed to happen. Peter Jackson talks about how his connections to Lord of the Rings are obviously strong, and how he sees the Beatles collectively almost as Frodo, but a little bit like the hobbits at the end of Lord of the Rings, going off to change the world, going off to save the world, and Frodo coming back and realizing, I guess I didn't do that for me. I did that for everyone else. There's no place for me here. The Beatles absolutely changed so much, which is so much part of their history. I'm not making this generational, but um, if you're a younger fan who's discovering the Beatles for the first time, or maybe you have a view of them of they're old and outdated, just study the history, the context of what they did in and out of the studio. I think they set the template of how to be a band. So to take it from that perspective, Peter Jackson saying that, and realizing the Beatles absolutely changed so much, and at the end of it, they realize they changed it for a lot of other people but themselves, and having to deal with that. It's something that just struck a chord with me, and I hope you can find those kind of themes as well in those. I love digging for themes. It's what we do over at Force Center. And it's what we continue to do, to look at some of these, what I do with Game of Thrones, what Joseph and I do with Star Wars. I love connecting to things based on the themes, because the themes, we all have themes in our own lives, and that leads to bigger enlightenment, bigger growth spurts and growth periods and redemptions, and helps us process stuff as well. So the Beatles and their inability to process the change that was going on around them broke my heart to watch it, but also comforted me in a way that I wouldn't have expected from this great documentary. Because there's so many little known, and I think Scott Mance and I, a lot of you know Scotty Mance. We've been texting all week, and I think we're going to have a great conversation soon here, a long form conversation about what that doc meant to us as super Beatles fans. And we know we're not alone. I always talk in Star Wars about that shared, unique journey where you kind of come to Star Wars. Where you kind of come to Star Wars by yourself and you think you're the only one, and you discover there's this giant universe, but you're still connected to all of it, but also your own journey. I think with Beatle fans, they're so big. There's other legendary rock bands, of course, but the Beatles are they are this Star Wars of pop music for me. That I found them in that tent at 12 years old at a birthday party, and thought I was the only one. And then you connect with it, and you're moved by it. And the Get Back Doc answered a lot of questions. It provided a lot of cool moments, sad moments, haunting moments. And I think Scott and I will talk about that shortly. But stuff, John Lennon going, yeah, tonight I'm going to go meet with Alan Klein. This guy, Alan Klein's been trying to get us. I'm going to go listen and hear him out. And the history of it. You know what that means. To have Paul step out of the room on that one day because he has a business meeting to take. Probably, who knows, going to Linda and her father, John Eastman, who wanted to manage them. Paul goes away, and John says, "Hey, George, Ringo, I met with that Alan Klein guy last night." Just to know that, to see all that and see it happen right there. It's as a Beatle fan, it's delicious, but it's also bittersweet in its own way. I've always George Harrison's music, but also his stories always kind of resonated with me. Being the one who is the third string, the third fiddle in a way, or the third guitar, and knowing eventually starting off here feeling, yeah, this is where I need to be, but then growing and moving and realizing I need to go outside of these walls. So to actually hear George working on All Things Must Pass and some of the other music that would so drive him forward as a solo artist, to see him working on it here in the Let It Be sessions, which Get Back sessions, as they were called them. It wasn't news to me, other than seeing the Beatles kind of all play on All Things Must Pass was one of those great moments too. But obviously this is 3 months after the White Album sessions and like 6 months before the Abbey Road sessions. It's just insane the pace at which they work, and a year or so away from McCartney, from Imagine, from All Things Must Pass, about a year and a half, 2 years away. Obviously, they're going to be working on these songs, but just to see George working on it and to see George go, I know where I need to be, and I know this isn't the place. I might as well just go do that. I might as well. I got my Beatle allotment of songs for the next 10 years. Why don't I just go do them myself? Because I don't want someone else to do these songs anymore. I want to go do them. I love that conversation too. That's something I have felt in my career a couple times over. So that was kind of my overview on it and the big lessons from it. I really was moved by seeing these heroes I've always looked up to struggling with something so tiny as the power of their own connection and how it was changing. So big stuff for me there. And I hope it found you. If you're moved by it in that way, I hope you found it that way too. So some thoughts here coming through here. Lauren Romo. Now Lauren says, I like when they would talk about the other artists and admiring what they were doing. Yeah, there's some amazing stuff there. Some of my favorite stuff, of course, Billy Preston comes in, and you watch Billy's career change just like that, where he's playing it piano, and the next day George was like, yeah, so we took him from Capitol Records. It was really easy. We just called, and Billy Preston's going to release 2 albums with Apple and start his career. But to talk about the other bands, Beatles were so influenced by music, man. It's no secret. Great artists are usually influenced by other great artists, and I love some of those conversations there as well. Captain Lobot saying, when Paul's playing the Let It Be intro on the piano and everyone's just standing around chatting, not knowing what he's about to write, one of the greatest songs ever. Absolutely. Absolutely love that. Thank you, Lauren Romo, for a resub. She says the Beatles Get Back Doc has turned me into a Beatles fan. Come back to that in a second, Lauren. Yeah, Captain Lobot, that's one of the most celebrated moments. That Paul creating Get Back almost out of thin air, right? Which is how it happens. If you've never heard the story, it's an interview with Dustin Hoffman, and it was released on the Band on the Run 25th anniversary CD. If you remember CDs, kids. You could probably get it somewhere. Maybe I'll make you a cassette and send it to you. Dustin Hoffman talks about Paul writing the song about Pablo Picasso's Last Dinner, the drink to me, drink to myself, I can't drink any more song, and how he challenged Paul to write the song where they were hanging out. He said, hey, write a song about this. And he pulls like a Time magazine article out and says, write a song. And he watches Paul write the song in front of him and says it's the great. It was other than the birth of my children, the greatest moment of my life to watch this happen. So we know that's how it happens. And even I'll write a joke. There's a moment I created. You create something. There's a moment the creation happens. But you just watch it, and exactly what Captain Lobot's saying of Paul's tinkling on the ivories, not knowing he's maybe has an intuition, some feeling, but not knowing he's about to write something that 50 years plus later we'll still be talking about and still talking. Ricky's here. What a jam. I get off of work to find Ken on here. What's good, fam? Yeah, we'll be here every Wednesday, Rick. We'll be here probably, I think more I think about we'll talk to John Mariano in a second. But I think we're going to move up to 4:00 live on Twitch and then re-uploaded to onto YouTube. Yeah, and Hans is right. I think I said 6 months earlier. No, yeah, literally they do all this stuff. They do the rooftop performance. Let It Be. It's kind of a mess to engineer, right? Glenn Johns, who goes on to be by the way, shouldn't Cillian Murphy play Glenn Johns in a narrative fiction based version of this movie? That Let It Be album has a lot of problems just in terms of sifting through all the hours. It's a really like a jam band kind of session, putting all the songs together. The Phil Spector stuff comes in. A lot of people know about that. But they kind of feel like that wasn't right. That just a lot of things. We got to do something else. And they bring George Martin back in and just say, forget all the rest. It's us and you, George, making a record, and that's Abbey Road, which is actually my favorite Beatle album, if you want to know. So yeah, old Handsaw with a great thing there. Yeah, I love this. Old Hanson said, young Alan Parsons getting ideas for his own project. He was 20 at the time. Captain Lobot points out when Peter Sellers walked in, funny and awkward. Yeah. Peter Sellers, who's about to shoot the Magic Christian with Ringo there, with Richie. I love one Sellers is there, who I love Peter Sellers, but he is a tremendously complicated character in pop culture history. Very troubled, very bad upbringing, and that kind of led to a lot talk about men being unable to process their own trauma. That's Peter Sellers. Complicated character, but I love Peter Sellers, love his work, and I have a biography on him that I've read a couple times. But have him walk in and be kind of awkwardly out of place hanging out with the Beatles was one of my favorite things there as well. So, Lord, I wanted to talk to Lauren here in chat. Lauren, I'll ask you answer. You're not, you admit it. You're not a, giant Beatles fan, clearly aware of them. And then they pop on in this documentary, you catch it and you catch a little bit of the Beatles fire. I love hearing that. I love that there are continued introductions to this band 50, 60 years on. What pulled you in, man? I got to know. What pulled you in, Lauren? Was it the rooftop coolness? Because there's a lot of coolness. I love that. All the footage of the rooftop concert is just everything I've seen and everything I've kind of wanted to see more, to see it in full and to kind of get a better picture of it here. I loved everything about that there. And hey, definitely not Trey. I got your support there. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I'm not using Streamlabs right now because of some of the stuff going on with their business. So they iron that out. We'll go back to Streamlabs and you can get more direct questions. But that's that. Yeah, Ben Goddard's here. What's up, Ben? Insane they were 28. I can't get over that. George, of course, a couple years younger. And yeah, that's always I always would cite that. And Lauren, feel free to I'll read your response here. The thing that Ben brings up there, and don't forget to give Ben a follow and a watch over there. There's his channel. There's his lovely face with this very Beatle-like. Actually, Ben's wearing some Peter Sellers-like glasses in this profile picture, and I enjoyed that there. I love this. The age thing. I carry that with me. I started my radio career at 18. By 21, I was laid off and thought I'm done. And one of the reasons I felt so down about it, I always cite two reasons. I'm a sports fan. So baseball player, especially back in the mid 90s, by 33, you're talking about retiring. Now it's a little bit different. So you feel old there. It's just not true. And then, yeah, I was such a Beatles nut to know that they're putting Sgt. Pepper together when, Paul and Ringo and John are about 26 and George about 24, 25. it just blows your mind. And then I kind of moved that in the back of my head, especially as I've gotten older. Age definitely is it's a number, but also it's definitely a different time. It's just, I mean, it just is what it is. But I just don't even feel I'm 45. I just that's just a weird concept to feel that there's any age or oldness attached to that number. But I'd pushed that in the back of my mind. To Ben's comment there, and then it just came rushing back again. I text Mark Ellis and I said, Mark, George Martin is 43. What are we doing? We're not even doing. Why even try? George Martin is 43. I'm 2 years older than George Martin in this Get Back doc. I can't go on. I can't go on. But we are going on. Mark Ellis and I going to Washington, D.C. Lauren Rama comes back with a response. Says the rooftop was great, but for me, it was learning more about them and some of the writing process of the music. That's great. That's great to hear because, again, there's kind of this there's a time warp lock, a time lock around them more than a warp. I'll cite the example of Star Wars. I'm always going to find a way to talk about Star Wars. There's so much as Star Wars continues to go on and new generations find it. The things that brought me to Star Wars become old. The original trilogy has no time attached to it, but is very much of its time. It's very much a movie made in the 70s, late 70s, and then early 80s for the three films. And I'm not surprised when I hear from some younger Star Wars fans who are like, God, I love the prequels, or I love the sequels. I love Clone Wars. I love Rebels. That's my first Star Wars. Yeah, the original movies are great. They're kind of old. Like I'm not offended by that because there's just some truth to that. I'm not offended by it when I as a diehard Beatles fan like me, when I hear someone kind of slag off the Beatles as just being of the time and of the 60s and their music wasn't that great and everything. It can annoy me, but I get it. If you're just looking from afar and you're not really feeling it, you're not studying what they brought to the entire era, and along with other bands. Beach Boys, legendary, influenced the Beatles without a doubt. I love the Rolling Stones. Different style, different vibe. Beatles are nice Sunday afternoon. The Rolling Stones are Saturday night. And I'm a huge Oasis fan. I always say they wrote music for Saturday night. Actually, they would say it. They wrote music for Saturday night. Pulp wrote music for Sunday morning. So The Who, I'm a big fan of The Who. All these legendary bands, and all of them kind of setting new marks and barriers to break. But the Beatles do something special because of the time and the pop culture zeitgeist. And I think a lot of pop culture began with them. Elvis as well. But I think a lot of it began with the Beatles, where it wasn't just the music. It was the hairstyle, the clothes. Elvis as well, to be clear. Chuck Berry's influence, Little Richard's influence, a lot of people like that influenced in a big way. But the Beatles, it was clothes, it was hair, it was a film comes out. Yeah, Elvis had films too, but this was different. This was a Beatle movie. Hard Day's Night, great piece of art. Richard Lester, the director there. I love Help. I think Help's a forebear for parodies and goofy comedies. They just changed so much, and I think if you're a little bit distant from it and the music doesn't grab you, you might not be pulled in. But to hear you describe that about the process and everything about it and the personalities. I almost wanted to I have my fake prop cigarette for whenever I do Dutch Allen stuff. I almost want to just smoke it because I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. But after that doc, I get why Disney Plus put up the warning. I wanted to light up and just smoke over a piano, and I don't smoke and I can't play the piano. Here, rounded up Star Juice says, hey, Four Seasons. I love the Four Seasons. Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Love Frankie Valli. When the constables walk into Apple's, where it'd be Monty Python sketch. It's that's great. I love that whole scene. And I think, as someone who has been in public safety and as someone who has had to go shut down fun events, I've been in that spot where you walk up and that just the nature of your job makes you the a-hole of situation and you don't want to, you just want to play nice. I've been there. I haven't shut down the Beatles on a rooftop concert, but I have done a lot of things like that in my time in my old job. And I felt them. I felt the pain going on there. Christian McGee says piano lessons with Ken. Maybe. Hey, Tommy Terry Green, who is over in the UK. I was on a business call with Tommy this morning and I called him a Brit. Which was almost derogatory. I apologize for that, Tommy. I was joking. I don't know why all you wonderful British folks are obsessed with the WhatsApp. I need to know because every person from the UK who I communicate with on a regular basis, like, I'm on WhatsApp. I don't get it. So he says, I think you still hear the Beatles and music more than any others of that era. That might be because my music taste follows the lineage more directly. Stone Roses, Oasis, Arctic Monkeys. I think that's a great comment too. I think that's a great comment too. Yeah. Zeppelin might lead to Radiohead, or Pink Floyd might lead more to Radiohead. There's those. And I follow the Beatles stuff. I follow 3 chords and the truth, or 3 chords and a melody. And I love that. So there's some truth to that. Mike Fink's got a great one here. Mike says, presented Chumbawamba on a rooftop in DC, which the cops shut down. Mike Fink with our winning comment of the day for this conversation. Man, I've back in my radio days, I hung out with the Gin Blossoms and the Refreshments and the Hazies and Bare Naked Ladies, but I never got shut down by the cops for my involvement with those concerts. Mike Fink, boom. Hi, Mike Fink. Winner, chicken dinner. All right, we go looking at some he's very clean. Was that Paul's grandfather? I thought Paul had another grandfather. He's got 2, Victor says this. I enjoy them because they don't just have one sound. Their style always evolves, so I can listen to a certain album depending on how I'm feeling. I love that stuff. Yeah, I as I said, Abbey Road. Abbey Road is my favorite Beatle album, but yeah, I get in different moods, and I often don't go to the early Beatles stuff as much as I do the later years. But there's little periods of time where I go back, like Every Little Thing is one of my favorite ones. I Should Have Known Better, one of my favorite Beatles songs, and I love kind of going back to that era and rediscovering them for myself. Starger says, U2 Rooftops, Street No Name, generation song with the Beatles. Yeah, connection there, absolutely. Ken says, I love music and love Biodoc, so I can't wait to see this. Waiting to watch my roommate works retail, so be well. Hey, you know what, Ken, you're gonna have a great time. You're gonna sit there. I thought, even as big as a Beatle fan that I am, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna put this on and I'm gonna have it in the background while I do some work. I pretty much watched every second. Grace can attest. Pretty much watched every second. A little bit later, I'm going to rank some of my favorite rock docs. Gee, I can't remember. Can't read my own notes. Also, I did want to highlight. I'm asking for questions on this show. Some are going to be live in chat. Some are going to be via StreamYard, and some are going to be sent in via my Patreon page, patreon.com/Ken Napzok. And one of them was this one by David Taylor. And no one had put a comment yet up on my Patreon page. And Dave Taylor said, hey, since no one has bit yet, I would like to hear this dissertation on why the Beatles Get Back is arguably the best music documentary of all time. I just gave you my reasons. We'll get into a little bit more. I'll say this about Get Back. I almost don't know if it qualifies to me as a rock documentary. It is, probably by every stretch of the imagination. But to me, as that goofy Beatle fan that you kind of try to avoid at parties, it was something more that I can't explain. And I don't mean to get all, woohoo with that, but it was something else, because you really did feel like you were hanging out with the Beatles after all these years. I've interviewed George Harrison's sister, Louise. That's as close as I got to the Beatles. I've met some people who've hung out with Paul McCartney, have worked with Paul McCartney and Ringo. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. And even they, in telling me the stories, were like, you can't imagine. But I felt like I was finally hanging out with them. And that's not necessarily what a rock doc does. So there you go. Mike's got it. He's got it. Oh, I'm going to watch that link afterwards. Mike, I don't know if you're in my Discord or not. I can't remember. Apologies if you are, and I'm not recalling. I'm going to grab that link and listen later. Chris Dominguez says fish. I like woohoo Ken. Yeah, fun stuff there. Fun stuff. That's just some of my thoughts. I've already talked about a half hour about the Beatles Get Back doc. Scott Manson and I will probably go for 9 hours. Maybe. Just maybe. I don't know. We are going to get to your questions, and actually a live question via StreamYard coming up right after this. The Wampa Cave's coming along here. What do y'all feel? You like this Wampa Cave? Wampa Cave. Oh, look at this. Wampa gets a roof. Oh, that went everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. Can we even save it? The answer is we could not save it. It's still a part in my storage. And one of those pieces I found a very long time later behind some else. Thanks, old Handsoft, for pulling that clip and editing that and making it all slow motion. More of those on the show. All right, we're going to get to some A's for your Q's here on Ken Goes Live. All right, A's for your Q's. That's what we got. And we got one first coming in from Ranger Donald. Ranger Donald says at the start of this year, even last year, is there one thing that you promised yourself or set as a goal for yourself, but for one way or another, it just never happened? And how did it affect you? And will it transfer over going into the new year? Absolutely. Absolutely. With trying to be just respectful for others around me that I've worked with for a while, one of my goals going into 2021 was to make things. Now, I consider this a thing. I'm a broadcaster at heart. I began my radio career in 1995. Yeah. And my live, I used to host a show in 1994. I've got some footage of that. Maybe I can get it from VHS to a digitized form and share that with you. I got a picture of it somewhere. Ken at 18 is not a Ken I want to share with the world too much, but that's when I started my broadcasting. So I consider this creating. I know everyone doesn't like that content word, but you know what I mean. But I wanted to get back to some of the things that I wanted to do when I moved here 24 years ago and things I've done along the way. A lot of you know I had a little run in sketch comedy, used to do some training over the Groundlings, worked with wonderful folks like Mikey Day, Kristen Wiig, and Brian Keith Etheridge and Melinda Hill, all these wonderful folks along the way, and used to write a lot of sketches and all that kind of stuff. Then I wrote a lot of screenplays and all that kind of stuff. And when schmoes and everything kind of exploded up for us in 2012 into 13 and 2014, it took me down a different path, and it took me far away from writing. Now, I did write Why We Love Star Wars. Hey, get that book wherever fine books are booked. But there's part of me that's like not done with the old script writing process and making things, sketches, shorts, something. And I've seen some friends go off and do that and do it to great success. I have no big dreams of success. I just want to do it. And going into 2021, that's a goal I set for myself. It's a goal I put out there. And with my pals that I was working with, I said, this is what I want to do. And just for reasons that were just super complicated, and just the way life goes as you try to keep a YouTube channel up and running, and some things fell through deal-wise behind the scenes. I couldn't make something this last year. And I feel real bad about that. I set I set a goal. And goal setting can be it's not my favorite thing. One of the people that's going to be on this show often is a great guy named Phil Svitek. A lot of you might know him. He is I call him a life coach. That's really not true. He calls himself a 360 coach, and he just started a Patreon page. Go check it out. And I'm going to have Phil pop in here every now and then and just give some good life advice kind of talk. We'll have that kind of conversation around setting goals and how your training is going to move you forward. He has a great YouTube channel too that I check in on every day and just kind of get little reminders of what I need to do. So to Donald's question, I feel real bad about that. I let myself down. I think others around me of not getting the chance and not creating the chance to create something. But that's a good thing. 12 months and a calendar flipping is not the end of any journey. Often it's just the beginning. And part of what I'm doing here at Ken Goes Live, this kind of Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon broadcast, just kind of not a hangout. We're gonna have things we're gonna be doing here, but it's me broadcasting, and now I'm gonna get a little bit back to me writing. In fact, I started writing something Sunday night that I hope me and the fine folks over at the Wangers are gonna put together for y'all. So that's a great thing to look forward to for myself, is what I'm trying to say there. All right. We are going to take a live question here right now. If you want to be someone who calls in live, you do have to support via Patreon. That sound like a threat. I know. Apologize. But patreon.com/Ken Napzok. It's not just to drive you there. It's a little bit of it. Sure. I'm a businessman too. But it's because I like to weed out, make sure I know and trust the people coming live on the show here. But I don't know if I necessarily trust this guy. I'm just not. I'm just not 100% sure. You know, he's a little wonky sometimes. So as you know, we're just gonna take a shot. We're gonna bring him in live here from New York, just outside the city, on an island that is long. It is my friend, now yours, John Mariano. Hi, Johnny Baseball. What's up?
Hey, Ken, how's it going?
I'm having a great time. Having a great time hanging out here with all of you. And you are my Svengali. Do we agree that maybe we're gonna have to move back to start time?
I think, I think if you slide it back an hour, it's probably the sweet spot, as we say in baseball.
Yeah.
Um,
Is it because I have to I have to care about you New Yorkers? Is that what it is?
no. Honestly, this is right around dinner time for me. I can shift my dinner around. I think it's really for these flyover states, right?
The flyover states. You're right. You're right. Let's talk down about the flyover. Look, if you want to eat a plate of pasta in front of me, I don't mind.
Oh, I almost did, but I decided to go with the merchandising route today.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have my winter gear all over here.
Are you wearing literally every shirt I sell on TeePublic?
I'm wearing as many as I can right now. Look, Ken, times are tough. The holidays are coming, guys. TeePublic can get some sort of royalty off of this stuff.
I get about 2 cents for every $50 sold, but yes.
Yeah. So, and go buy his Star Wars book for every family member you can.
There you go. Yeah. The publisher runs a very nice nerdy gifts for dads campaign because SEO shows them that's who gets the book more. But certainly it's a book for everyone. And I definitely encourage that. I appreciate it. This wasn't planned, by the way. John just said I'm going to come on, but I appreciate you being my hype man, Johnny.
You need a little bit there, Ken. So I'm happy to be it.
Well, Christy McGee says you have to pay to watch Johnny eat. How much? What is it? $10 a slice on your OnlyFans?
I mean, if that's the case, I am starting OnlyFans tomorrow.
And hey, Aaron, the author, a more talented author than I am, more than I could ever be. She says, I have 2 copies. It's serious must read. Thank you. Hey, is this our pal? Is that our pal Zach Anderson? Yeah, it is. He's been quiet for a while. Hope that kid's okay. He's never been the same since he fell off that bull at the Saddle Ranch outside the Comedy Store with me and Grace cheering him on.
He's a fine kid.
He's a Brewer fan. We don't trust Brewer fans around here.
No. I mean, he used to hang around that feeding the monster thing that me and Scribs and the fellas did last year.
Johnny, what is on your mind, man? What, you got another question, or are you just here to hype me up, man?
No. I do have a question.
Yeah.
Right?
What's your question?
There is no broken trail to Old Mexico, is there, Ken?
No. The broken trail to Old Mexico was a lie told by one William H. Bonney because he couldn't process the idea of change and moving on from those close to him, even though he knew he probably should. There's valuable themes and lessons in Young Guns and Young Guns 2, and that is one of them, Johnny. It's important stuff.
I brought that question with me because I felt after watching like 6 or 9 hours of the Beatles over the weekend that it was probably the most relevant Young Guns 2 tie-in I could bring to that documentary.
Yes, I absolutely think that's true. Yeah, we'll find out. Maybe in Young Guns 3, maybe Billy the Kid processed a lot of that male angst and rage that we often struggle with right now,
So if I could bring it back to your Beatles comments a little bit, like you and I are roughly the same age.
By a couple weeks, right?
Yeah, something like that. But I didn't get into the Beatles as early as you did. I had a buddy in like middle school, high school who was huge into the Beatles.
Okay.
And told me the story of these sessions back in like 91, 92.
Okay.
And it was under the context of they did this great concert and the cop showed up and it was on the rooftop. Yeah. And, he was telling the whole story and he's like, but we'll never see it. Like it's in the vault and we'll never see it.
Right.
And like as soon as this weekend hit, and as I'm watching it, I texted him. I'm like, I guess that day finally came.
What did he say? What did he say to you?
He was like, you're watching it now? Like I beat him to the punch of watching. Yeah. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, I literally just watched it was at the point where Paul just strums Get Back and like figures it out in front of your eyes. I'm like, it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
It's breathtaking. Yeah, your friend was right back then, right? It was fable stuff. And like I said, it's the legends we print, right? Even for the Beatles, they lived it, they were there. But Peter Jackson actually told a story on Stephen Colbert of like showing Paul footage of him helping John write "Give Me Some Truth," which would come out on the Imagine album and is a John solo records. And Paul's like, no, I didn't work on that song. It's John's. It's his solo. And then Peter Jackson's like, here you are. Here and Paul, his mind was blown. He says he had no memory of it, and all the time is locked away in that vault. They don't want to touch it because, and why would they? The breakup of the Beatles didn't go peachy keen, and it's something that is so talked about all the time, still to this day. Why would you want to revisit that if you don't know how to process it?
No, but I went down a rabbit hole after watching it, and I watched. You and I both enjoy a little Dick Cavett here and there. And I love
the Dick Cavett. You talk about the Dick Cavett George Harrison interview? Are you going there?
No, I actually watched the Dick Cavett Yoko Ono John Lennon interview.
Yeah,
and Dick Cavett was going hard on kind of pointing fingers at Yoko for the breakup of the band.
Yeah.
So John goes, well, if you're going to give her credit for the breakup of the Beatles, you have to give her credit for all of the great music we made after the Beatles. And it was like such a beautiful, like John Lennon thing to say.
Yeah. And never was true. It totally based in both, sexism and racism towards aimed at Yoko. This we know. And I don't think over the years, Paul and Yoko have feuded and all that kind of stuff. There's been bad times, but I don't think they out and out ever said she was the one. I think they did fight that narrative. And as early as that George Harrison interview with Dick Cavett, which is around 71, 72, I think. Yeah. Someone can check me on that. He's already kind of not wanting to answer, but also kind of, none of that stuff's true. And to see it and to hear Paul say 50 years from now, they're going to joke that the Beatles broke up because Yoko sat on an amp, and that's just silly. To actually see that and to know that Peter Jackson said, I need to put this in this film. Out of all the 60 hours of footage, this is one of the things I need to put in. It was pretty important to me.
Yeah, no, and I did watch the George Harrison too. Like I just couldn't, after watching however long it was, like you said, if they gave us all 60, I would have watched all 60. And I'm not a Beatles guy. Right, like just to go to your point of like
your favorite band is the Osmonds, right?
Oh yeah, Donnie Marie. That's my that's my jam. No,
which part of you is a little rock and roll? Which part of you is a little country?
I don't think I could say children watch the show.
No, that's true. That's true. We don't want to offend Zach or Christy. Definitely not Trey. Hey there, young people. Dick Cavett was an American TV personality a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Dick Cavett, one of the most underrated talk show hosts of all time. Now, in the 70s, he was probably perfectly rated. He was kind of pitched as the antithesis to Johnny Carson, the thinking man's Carson. Not that Carson wasn't a thinking man himself, but I love Dick Cavett. He's still going. He liked a tweet from Ringo the other day. I hope John, I almost clipped it out and texted it to you.
Oh man, I wish you did.
Talk about Cavett a lot.
I wish you did. Yeah.
All right, Johnny, thank you for coming on in here. We're going to move on to our next segment, but you can hang out in the green room if you want to.
I'll be down there. I'm watching.
By the way, I love where you chose to call in today in front of your calendar whiteboard.
Thank you. Yeah, I have this round table. I'm trying different sets out, and it's like, this is where I'm at today.
I think I'm going to put that back here. I'm going to remove Christy McGee's needlepoint and my Obi-Wan Kenobi and just put my whiteboard calendar.
I have a Christmas card here from Christy McGee that I just got, where she has her creepy nutcracker that she calls Sam.
Oh, perfect. That's not haunted at all.
No, not at all. She is a known witch.
Yeah, she is a known witch. I keep trying to tell her and Grace to launch that brand. All right, Johnny, we're going to move on to the next segment. Stick around. Love chatting with you here. Great stuff. And Eddie, always love to hear from a Dick Cavett fan. All right, we are going to get into Life Ranked shortly. But before that, we're going to have, I pulled this from the vaults. I figured it was the right time to share this. A little something I wrote on Saturday Night Napzok about the Beatles' last show.
On this day in history, history. August 29th, 1966. The cheeky mop-top rock and or roll combo The Beatles played their last concert at Candlestick Park in San Francisco, California. And your mother or grandmother was probably there lusting after the band just like Brian Epstein. Facing an exhausting schedule and the desire to stay closer to home in England so they can try new drugs with their dentist, the Fab Four, John, Paul, George, and Pete Best's replacement, I refuse to recognize his name, decided to no longer perform live as their screaming fans made it impossible to play. In fact, during this final show, none of the over 25,000 plus paid in attendance seemed to notice that at least two members of the band were lifeless wax statues. The Beatles played 11 songs that night, and the concert lasted a total of 7 minutes and 42 seconds. It was so short that it was played between the third and fourth innings of a San Francisco Giants baseball game. After playing their final song, Long Tall Sally, a song that no doubt encouraged sexual intercourse out of wedlock, the band rode off in an armored van and were never heard from again. At least until Paul McCartney re-emerged for the 1984 film Give My Regards to Broad Street. All this and more happened on this day in history.
You can check out the Saturday Night Napzok, where This Day in History appears as a regular segment when I get around to it. Check it out wherever podcasts are found. Saturday Night Napzok on the Napzok Files. And I am audio. I have an audio recording of this going. I haven't decided if I want to release these as a podcast yet, because I want to push you all to watch it here on Twitch or YouTube. But we'll see. No one likes to be pushed around, so maybe I'll give you all choice, and I should just trust the choice process there. All right, like the old podcast days, the Napzok Files had a show called Life Ranked. We got that here right now. Let's do some Life Ranked indeed. I was thinking about what, do I want to talk about something else other than the Beatles or rock docs or something? I thought, no, I'm going to give you guys what I think are the 5 best rock docs according to me. Now, when I say according to me, what I mean by that is it's my opinion, and I don't think ranking lists are definitive. I don't think they're for the rest of the world. I think they're just a collected a group of opinions for the person saying them. But maybe this will spawn some conversation. We got people like John Mariano and definitely not Trey and old hands on chat. What I mean, old people. Laser Bolts is here as well. We've seen a lot of documentaries about rock music and popular music, so we might have some opinions and things to say on it. I didn't write these down as a title card. I apologize. We're just going to run through the list here. These are the ones, again, I've seen. I haven't necessarily seen every one of the rock docs out there. I'm trying. Like, I've had 20 Feet from Stardom. Is that the one? I've had that in my queue on Netflix for years. I haven't had time to watch it. I'm going to. I just watched the Go-Go's doc. It's pretty damn good. Not on the list quite yet, but I have to let that one simmer a bit. My number 5 choice is Sound City. Sound City is the great documentary. I think Dave Grohl was behind that one as well. And Paul McCartney's in that one. It is about the recording studio, legendary recording studio, with just so many albums made. And there's just so many stories to tell out of Sound City. And what I learned from that documentary, the reason this maybe resonates with me more than other docs about studios, I didn't realize that from 2000 to 2006, 2000 to 2006, I lived around the corner from Sound City. I didn't know. I knew of Sound City. I had heard tell and tales. I didn't know till I watched that doc years later that I literally was about a 4-minute drive from Sound City. Missed opportunities. Now I can drive by and wave. I also used to play golf across the street from the area that the ILM, Industrial Lights and Magic business got started next to the Van Nuys Airport. I used to play golf every Sunday. Could see the office. I didn't know it till later. Yeah, look around, see what's going on there. So that's my number 5, Sound City. Number 4, So Rolling Stones, they got a lot of great docs out there, and there's some I just watched recently that are really good. But Gimme Shelter, it's like the classic doc, 1970. I think that's the one. You know, you got you got the Rock and Roll Circus one with Michael Lindsay Hogg directing that one as well. That's great. That one's talked about as well. But Gimme Shelter's just, it's one of those ones that you compare a lot of other docs to. It's got a lot of the Altamont footage in it, shocking, tragically historic footage. I love everything about them. I've always been a Stones fan, always been a Stones appreciator, but it wasn't until I saw them live like 2 months ago with Mark Ellis, Tom Rhodes, and John Kaiser. We all went to SoFi Stadium and saw the Stones, and I've just been buzzing about the Rolling Stones more than I have ever been. And I, again, have a fan. I'm a fan. Own Stones records, own the music, know the music, love them. But I saw them live, and I just like, okay, yeah, finally, after all these years, I get what they are. I get what they have contributed. I always knew, but now I felt it. I felt it in my soul. So Gimme Shelter on that as well. Tommy Terry Green's throwing in Supersonic. Get to your choices here as well, but I love that one as well. Number 3, I'm counting this as a rock doc. I think it's, I think people will look down on this one, but my number 3 choice is VH1's Behind the Music on Fleetwood Mac. The story of Fleetwood Mac, I think people have tried to turn it into movies and TV shows. It makes for great docs. If I said earlier, the Beatles kind of are the template for how to be a great band, like the story of a band, like that's how you do it. And that's even how you break up. And Fleetwood Mac, they set the template for how to have just an amazing, dramatic, melodramatic, sexy, sultry, and angry story. I absolutely love that VH1 doc. It was around the time of their 1996 reunion. Now, I was in rock radio. 1996, I was a huge Oasis fan, all this kind of stuff, big Beatles fan, all this stuff. And I used to just look down upon Fleetwood Mac, partly because the 2 program directors I worked under were not Fleetwood Mac fans. One was a big Bruce Springsteen fan. He had left, and the next one who got promoted from musical director to program director was a huge Kiss fan, and he hated the feud between Kiss and Fleetwood Mac. That still carried over from the 70s. So I think I just kind of absorbed that and kind of always looked down on the Mac from about like 94, 95. And then this comes out, the dance, the Fleetwood Mac reunion tour that was actually taped not too far from where I live now in Burbank. The VH1 Behind the Music comes on, and I think those are about 60 minutes edited for television, right? At the end of the doc, I was a Fleetwood Mac fan and a Rolling Stone fan. I was a Fleetwood Mac fan like I never imagined I could be, and I'm still a Fleetwood Mac fan. In fact, anytime I play them on the Hall of Fame music radio show I do out in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Newcastle, Pennsylvania, I always warn everyone of an impending Mac attack. Number 2, I think people are forgetting this one. It's the Beatles Anthology. I think that has its rightful place as in the top pantheon of rock docs. It is. It was an event in 95. It was insane. The surviving Beatles getting back together to put out new music, to Free as a Bird and Real Love. 2 songs I actually really do love as a Beatles fan. To get back and no pun intended and tell their story through their point of view, through their memory. But man, I think it's easy to forget the influence of the Beatles Anthology and the event that it was on ABC, right? I think it was it. And Wolbrand said it earlier. Yeah, well, it's the Holy Grail. I really just think it could get overlooked. Maybe because it's their story and that doesn't, you're worried about them protecting some of their story. They're pretty honest and raw on it. And it's just great. I think that doc is worth everything. The price of admission is seeing Ringo, George, who we would lose only 6 or so years later, and Paul sitting on the grass, ukulele in hand with George, and them just strumming and playing along and talking stories. That was everything to me. Absolutely everything. And then, all right, my number 1 favorite rock doc. Again, this is a list of other things I've seen. Is, all right, you know what? First, I'm going to do some honorable mentions. How about that? All right, I'm going to do some honorable mentions first. Here's some things that almost made the list. VH1 Behind the Music, Mamas and the Papas. That one's equally as good. That's a crazy story. Cass can't make it. She said you had to fake it. We knew she'd come eventually. Mamas and the Papa story is batshit. Excuse me. Let me do it again. It's bat. Check that out if you haven't. Crossfire Hurricane is a relatively recent one about the Rolling Stones that the Stones are interviewed, but they wouldn't allow cameras. They just was audio. So that filmmakers took the audio and put it over archive footage that's appropriate to the conversation. And it takes a minute or two. Ellis recommended to me, and he says, it takes a minute or two to get used to it. Once you do, you're in. And that's 100% true. Once you're in, you're in. It's a great doc. I highly recommend Crossfire Hurricane. One I just recently watched, it came out on YouTube. Tom Petty, Somewhere You Feel Free. It's about him and the making of Wildflowers. That's one of my all-time favorite albums. Highly recommend that. George Harrison, Living in the Material World. In 2011, 10th anniversary of his passing, HBO releases George Harrison, Living in the Material World by Martin Scorsese. Not a bad guy. He knows his way around rock docs too, by the way, with the Woodstock one. Underrated one too for a George Harrison fan like me. U2 Rattle and Hum, big U2 fan, Rattle and Hum. I stumbled onto a list that was talking about some docs this past week, preparing for this. And I think it was Rolling Stone that even was saying, like, back then in 88, a lot of people started to make fun of U2 for that doc. It came off as pretentious and holier than thou, and they took themselves too seriously. But the article says, go back and look at it now. It is a band trying to cope with becoming the biggest band in the world and trying to find their way through that and give a little something back and give a little something to their influences. So I think you should revisit Rattle and Hum. I'll put this one out there. I'm dedicating this one to our friend Robbie Smith. Madonna, Truth or Dare. Pretty fantastic. And also, talk about events. Madonna, Truth or Dare was an event too. The book, everything, her at the top of her game. I think like a prayer as Madonna at the top of her game. But Truth or Dare is one of those it's seminal rock doc. And you see some of the ones that come later on with Lady Gaga or Billie Eilish has got stuff going on, kind of those docs / concert films. I think a lot of them would, Katy Perry, whatever, they would point back to that Madonna, Truth or Dare. And by the way, I don't mean to just compare female artists to female artists. I think anyone can look back to the Madonna doc, Truth or Dare, and talk about creating an event. So definitely not Trey is waiting for a great Guns N' Roses doc. Keep waiting. And then the final one for my honorable mentions, this is Spinal Tap. One of the greatest comedy films of all time? Yes. One of the great rock docs of all time? Also yes. There's still bands, real rock bands. Spinal Tap was a real band, by the way, who say, yeah, it's hard to watch this as Spinal Tap because it's too real. It's too close to home. All right, my number one choice here as we start to get around here to the end of the show, but we're not done yet. My number one rock doc choice, Mark Ellis and I reference it often, is History of the Eagles. I'll say this. I'm not a huge Eagles fan. Even right now, not a huge Eagles fan. But I got to tell you, I still just put that doc on just to capture part of it. The energy, the macho kind of alpha rock male energy on display in this Southern California breezy sound band, and the drama and the stories and the lineup changes and the history and the legacy and them coming back. It's an amazing rock and roll story. And whether or not you feel super connected to the Eagles music, I don't think you have to. And I don't think with any rock doc you have to feel super connected to the music. I think it helps. George Harrison's Living in the Material World is close to me because George is my Beatle. But I think just a good story of a great band or a great artist is worth its weight in gold. So that's some of mine. John Marino in chat says, argue that Get Back feels like this is Spinal Tap. There's some truth to that there. Kristen McGee says, you've got homework, Ranger Donald. Spice World isn't a documentary. I've checked. I almost tried to count Spice World. There you go. Does Blues Brothers count? Maybe. Close. Will Brown comes back with No Direction Home. Dylan, the Scorsese Dylan doc. I would agree with that. Warren Beatty seems stodgy in Truth or dare. And Kristen McGee says correctly, Madonna is Yvette. Old Handsaw says The Searcher, Elvis. Is Old Handsaw, is that the one that was just kind of recently on HBO? That one's underrated as well. I'm an Elvis fan in the sense of it's Elvis, and I get it. And I didn't always get Elvis, but I drove through Memphis in 2008, and I played Elvis music as I crossed the Mississippi River into Memphis, and it was literally spiritual. It was something I could not fully explain. I mean, not even with tongue in cheek. It was something else, and so I kind of started to appreciate Elvis a little bit more. My late uncle Nick, huge Elvis fan, saw him in Vegas in the early 70s. I loved Elvis, so I always respected that. So, yeah, that one's, I think that's the one yeah, HBO or Showtime says Old Handsaw. That was a good one there as well. And old Handsaw, I've got this one selected, and I'm going to watch it, and maybe I'll have to reevaluate this list. Don't sleep on the Sparks Brothers by Edgar Wright. If you want to see Doc on an actual band no one knows about, I do have that one. It is on my list of docs to watch. You know, you can't watch them all, and we're gonna do. You know, Old Handsaw has been chomping at the bit. I'll say it right here. He's privately written me and said, "Can we do a rock doc show?" And you know, maybe we might have to. I want to shout out Donna Long with a support over there on the PayPal donation page to support Morning Drive Media and the show. All those kind of donations are not necessary at all, but they're greatly appreciated to keep the lights on here at the studio. I love having y'all hanging out here today. Been a ton of fun, and this is just the beginning of Ken Goes Live in this form on these two channels, live on Twitch, uploaded later to YouTube. I love the Twitch format. I love the Twitch interface, and I just played Red Dead Redemption this past week. I got to tell you, I got a story on Red Dead Redemption Online. I got hunted down by a posse. I was just minding up my own business in the city of Valentine, and someone on a hill snipes me off my horse. And I'm like, you know, it happens every now and then. You run into some players, some real life players in this online game who are just jerks. Others just wave. I usually wave. And I got shot off my horse. And so I get up, and then they shoot my horse. They shoot my horse. They killed my horse on Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, online, your horse gets to come back, but in the actual game, it would die. So I spawn back up, and I'm trying to go get some revenge, and I get shot again by the guy. In the meantime, two other people come by, and they see me. Yeah, LQ says, not the horse. Not the horse. And Mike Fink, I take your note here. Mike Fink says, agree that the 4 p.m. start works better. All right. The people have spoken. Dana Medina says, not the horsey. It's true, the horsey. But two other people come by, and I can see them because my character is like fading away. and they look, and they see me on the ground, and it's almost like they look up on the hill where the guy's sniping me, and they're like, let's go get that guy. He killed the horse. Let's go get him. So boom, they take off, and I'm like, oh great, these guys are gonna help me. So I spawn back up, and you always kind of spawn off a little bit far from where you are. And so I head after, and I'm going to help these two strangers avenge my death and my horse's death in the pursuit. Now, on the map, there's a little red dot over the person that killed you. It's like your rival, right? So there's two blue dots and the red dot, and I'm trying to get the red dot. But as I come up over the hill, I crest over the hill. Is that the right term? Is that the right term, Petey? Yeah, Ken. All right, inside joke. I shoot the wrong guy with a shotgun in the back of the head. Red Dead Redemption violent game. I kill the guy. And I go, oh no, that's not going to be good. So he spawns back up, and now he and his partner, instead of avenging me and my horse, they're chasing me and my replacement horse. They track me down. They don't do nice things to me. I'm like, all right, in my head, I'm like, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that. So I spawn back up, and I just want to go get some meat at the butcher in Valentin. And they keep hunting me down. They killed me 5 times. And I'm playing online by myself. I'm trying to play, a lot of, our buddy Ikaika from the old GPA days. We're going to try to form a posse. But John Mariano, I want to do a posse thing with him. I got to say that word carefully. He's on Xbox, so he can't. No cross-platform. I'm on PS4, like it's 2009, and I'm alone. And I'm like, time out. I'm out of the city. They kept chasing me. Killed me 5 times. Yeah, that's the problem. And now I'm the red dot, Kyle. Kristen McGee says, just say oops and sorry. I wish I could. I would set folks on fire, but I can't. Yeah, there you go. Captain Lobot's got a PS4. Yeah, I might have to form a posse. All right. Before we go, I'm going to bring Johnny back in, and John's going to explain how I can get revenge and how I can play better next time. Johnny, what do I do in that situation on Red Dead Online?
You call me and I coach you through it. I think that's it. Like, I feel like as you describe your gameplay, our good friend Hillbilly Scribs, your gameplay and his gameplay, you guys play by such a code of honor.
Yeah.
Like,
my honor's at the top. My honor is at the top.
And you believe like the animals are real and you protect the animals, I'm sure, and you do all the good things.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing when I first started playing, but I played with our buddy Thomas Risling.
Yeah. He's got honor, right?
And he was on it, and he was he's kind of like Neo from the Matrix in that he explained to me that they're all just pixels. And once I understood this, my entire level of gameplay has changed.
It's true. I'll tell you what, because Johnny, in that situation, no one can, talk to me. I have headphones on, but no 14-year-old kid in Wichita is going to be yelling at me, right? Okay. And saying, like, none of that's going to happen. So, but I feel as though they could, so I get shy. And I think I got to take this nihilist approach. They're all just pixels.
Oh, they're all just pixels, and you have to have at least 2 horses, so in case they shoot one, your other horse.
I have a scrawny nag. I haven't named it yet. I gotta build it up. But my horse is named Ladybug, which is my nickname for Grace. So they shot Ladybug the horse. It was devastating.
Which is terrible. Like, all of my horses, like, I don't do anything precious, so they're all named after Kurt Russell references.
That's fair.
So I have like Bone Tomahawk, and I have my dog's Captain Ron, and they're all everything in the world is some sort of Kurt Russell tribute.
I love the Captain Ron. That's great. Yeah. All right, that's great advice. Always protect the horses. And by the way, again, this is the segment we like to call on here. Ken takes calls. And actually, I've got the nice motion graphic I put a lot of time into that I'll get up there next time. There it goes. All right, there you go. This is with our friend John Mariano right now. And if you want to get the StreamYard link every week on the show, just become a Patreon supporter, patreon.com/Ken Napzok. I'll drop it in the Discord where we have a lot of conversations going on. Definitely not Trey's. Still processing Ken's avatar being a cute redheaded lady who's ruthless, who is a killer. Even though my honor's at the tippy top, my character does what she has to do. All right.
Well, the beautiful thing is you could kill as many people as you want online. If you feed your horse, your honor goes right back up.
Right. Yeah. And I feed my horse a lot. Yeah. Giggity. I think that means something else. All right. We are going to sign out of here. Johnny, thanks as always. And we'll get some more calls on the upcoming shows here. Been a lot of fun. I want to let you know about some other things that I got going on. We are on an hiatus for a week, maybe a second week, unfortunately, because of that. Unfortunately, I picked up some freelance writing work, so I got to work on a project. I might be out for Pop Rock and Radio this week, but go to Mixcloud and look for Pop Rock and Radio. It's my radio show every week. You can also catch me on Hall of Fame Music Radio out of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. You can listen through their website at hofmradio.com. Don't forget, if you like the This Is History and other things like that, I got Saturday Night Napzok. That is wherever podcasts are found. A lot of fun there. Crazy little wild satire-based world I've created there. And if you want some live stand-up comedy, we got that coming your way. Mark Ellis and I are going to be in Washington, D.C. at the Comedy Loft December 16th through 19th. We're already making plans to get some nice Guy Fieri food at the airport before we fly out. We've got some naps planned, not together, but who knows? Maybe. Doesn't matter. Check it out. Go to markellis.live for tickets or go to kennapzok.com and the comedy tab to get tickets if you're going to be out there. I think I'm going to see Johnny Mariano live and in person there. Kristen McGee says, let Petey do the show. That's good. Old Handsaw, thanks for the kind words. Indeed, more things coming. I really appreciate y'all hanging out with me today here live on Twitch, watching a little bit later on YouTube as well. With that, it means a lot. Spread a word, subscribe, rate, review, cheer, all those things you want to do, or just watch. That's what I need more than anything. You and me hanging out. This is the first episode of Ken Goes Live here, number 6 overall. Go back and check out the other shows. Real proud of the other shows they did at the GPA with Christian Rubacaba, Zara Lisbon, Matt Key, Andres Cabrera, and Phil Moore. Great long-form interviews with them. And I'm not done doing long-form interviews. I just want to have a different kind of show here to hang out with all of you. So that's what we got this week. We'll see you next time on Ken